Doing well on this Friday. Fun Friday session here at CTM. Only rug pull by Trump. Truth Social Media. For the first time, in many months, we're looking at that potentially trade war 2.0 coming back into play. Up until now, the trade war had been completely priced out. China and the United States have been negotiating. First, the 90-day pause, then further negotiations. Xi and Trump were expected to meet 2 weeks from now. That potentially is not going to happen right now. In Trump's social media post, he goes as far as to say why there's no longer any reason to meet with Xi. It hasn't yet been canceled. If that were to be canceled, that would be a further escalation, and that would say that instead of we were seeing these parties coming closer together, now they're moving further apart. That will be reflected likely in the markets, or by the end of the day. How soon is your timer on? How soon until we get a taco from Trump? And he's like, well, it's okay. Don't, that could happen as well, right? Listen, I for one, am pretty happy of not well, hold on one second. Let me rewind that. I'm happy to see this what I deem to be very unhealthy price action and continuous rise, right? To be able to have a moment here to consolidate. And it remains to be seen whether or not we get a further escalation from here. That's obviously what we're watching. If we do, trade war dynamics will become the driver of the market over here. And, I think that the Chinese are obviously they're responding to what was brought upon them in the beginning of April as massive tariffs were imposed upon them. And they're negotiating. And the one major negotiating tool they have is the rare earth materials. And it's the US's fault for putting themselves in a situation where they are reliant upon another party, specifically a party that many within that country deem to be their, let's say, enemy is such a horrible word. Opposing force, we could put it, or we should put it. And listen, these two countries, they are actually jockeying for position in what is the most important race ahead, and that is the AI race. And both of them are doing whatever's possible to limit the other one from being able to succeed. The US is, and I don't know if they passed the law. I guess our Congress is not working, right? They are getting paid, but they're not working. They're soon to pass a law that the US has to have first claim to new advanced chips that come out from NVIDIA and all the other chip makers. So obviously they're doing whatever they can. I had to read with Deep Power having that massive insight on the ground in China. Had to see how he's weighing in here today. And listen, we don't know, first of all, whether or not, like, this was something that was priced out of the markets. It's now being priced into the markets. It's interesting to see that Bitcoin and Nasdaq so far, you can't read anything into what has transpired over the last hour. Ace saying that he was able to line up a 1.0. What he's talking about over here, I can't even imagine being on the 1 hour though, Ace, in the morning. But what he's looking at is this, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, right, Ace? Were you watching this in real time? Were you able to actually get a 1.0 sell impulse on that? If so, massive, massive, massive. I was watching the screen as it happened, and all of a sudden, like the 1 minute candle, the market must have lost like something close to, like, what was it, 600, 700 billion dollars of market cap. It was just like boom. And here we are still trading off the lows right now. it's too soon to know what is going to happen, whether or not this is the start of, I don't want to be on the daily over here and go back to the 1 hour. This is the start of a bigger correction, which I deem to be healthy if that's the case. I keep going over here and I don't want to do that. I'm gonna come back over here. I deem that to be very healthy. Even getting a retest over here of the prior all-time high breakout, and then you can see we have our green trend line. That would be the first major breakdown to occur. Even if that occurs, that then takes us down to what is just well within our normal expectations about what could happen. I don't think there's any cause for alarm. I just don't know whether or not this situation gets worse or much worse before it begins to get better. And I have no idea which of the two opposing forces has more staying power at this point to hold out longer. This could just be a negotiating tactic of the Chinese ahead of the meeting with Trump, and they could just try and like put themselves into a position where they have something better to negotiate. They've been trying to limit exports from other countries, sending letters out to all different not like the US didn't do, sending letters out and saying like here's the tariff that's being imposed upon you. So here we are. I was enjoying this Friday morning and watching our positions continue to build ahead of the major dump, and major dump indeed. Look over here at FNGU. I mean, that is a monster candle to the downside. Very unfortunate. I mean, look at that. Triple leverage FANG works both ways. Barely holding on now into profit. And again, outside of a taco coming in, we could be closing here at the lows of the days. Tesla, which was again also earlier this morning, looking like it was getting ready to rebound after flirting with the last 2 days of a pending exit, now looks like it's probably confirmed. At the height of the carnage this morning, MicroStrategy was signaling a short entry, which is super interesting, especially as you look at the spot ETFs still holding on the long side, especially as you look at Bitcoin bull run still in the market for MicroStrategy to be getting set up to attack on the short side, which is not a common occurrence at all. Let me just zoom out with you. You can see during the bear market of 2022, there were lots of short side trades, but not since then, not even one. You can see over here also coming out of the global lockdowns, some short side attempts over here. And MicroStrategy, I mean, wow, that could be a lot of pain ahead. It really helps to have a plan and a plan to trade. And that plan looks fantastic. I put out a tweet this morning, and the tweet was something to the effect of, 2 weeks ago, for a brief moment, we went 100% into cash. My view was like cautious at best. I expected that by this time markets would have been trading lower than they were, and that any long entries we had were just going to get chopped up. And here we are, and we're sitting on some nice, that looks massively different ever since NASDAQ getting cracked, smashed down here. Nevertheless, like Tesla at least will be able to lock in some profit. I mean, I don't know what this thing looks like on Monday morning, especially if we don't have a taco by the end of the day and we close at the lows. This thing could be, but hopefully, worst case scenario, Tesla locks in enough to, even if FNGU takes a full stop loss, to negate it, and we still walk away through what I deem to be the chop zone with a small amount of profit. That's fine. That's a small thing. It's just a small amount of time moving into what was expected to be unfavorable. Man, I don't do a good enough job getting everyone to focus on what's important. And this is with a 7% annual rate of return. How long it would take someone starting with 10,000 to achieve $1 million. CTM, a lot of people drastically underestimate what they could achieve in 10 years. I mean, this is with getting it done 70% a year. I could go ahead and just move it down over here. Um, and bring it back. You want to be able, and after taxes, of course. And I don't think most people have the is fortitude the right word? I don't think most people have the capacity to be able to withstand like a year of just preserving purchasing power. We'll find out. We'll find out for sure. Couldn't this just be a small pullback correction and we can't fight feds or buybacks? Well, this is welcomed in the sense that when I said that this is bullish, like I don't think that the upward trajectory was it was getting very extended. Um, you know, I am happy to have a period of consolidation, and my expectations are that we should likely and probably be muddling along here until we're able to reaccelerate. And markets are obviously, yeah, I mean, if Trump tacos for real, this could be nothing more than a big wick that's left. Now, the meeting between Z and Trump is 2 weeks away. And if that's called off, then I think that this correction has just begun today, and that there's a good chance that we have our first technical breakdown, and then we have to watch what happens into the zones below. But I think it's healthy. I don't think there's anything wrong with what is happening over here. How long, or is this just the beginning? That remains to be seen. And that's the whole thing. It's impossible to know. We trade momentum, and if that momentum comes out of the market, we got first of all, like if we're neutral, you're safe. You got to be able to trade through a chop, and you got to wait for that trend to develop. I think this is super interesting over here, and it's looking at this bull market. They have the bull market starting in October. I don't know. I mean, we took the trend line break in January. And when we took the trend line break, closing our eyes on the NASDAQ, it was like, everyone was so ridiculously bearish. It was ridiculous. And so was I. Like, the macro doom was all over the place. And when price crossed above this trend line, I literally was like, you just have to close your eyes because it was just Powell's telling us there's going to be pain. And then it was after that, we had a secondary breakout. And that secondary breakout, I was like, everyone was so bearish in March still that I had to invert this and take away the fact that it was the NASDAQ. And I said, if this breaks, you are going to see a waterfall. And everyone looking at this pattern, that's interesting that we're looking at this pattern because this is going to look like a pattern I'm going to show you in 1 minute between the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. I want to get your thoughts on that. It's strikingly similar. And sure enough, Michael Berry tells everyone to sell here. Jim Cramer said that he said we'll get a pullback and then the NASDAQ's going to melt up. He got the melt up part right. And sure enough, that was a waterfall that we saw out of there. And the point being of this is lost upon me. I don't know what we were talking about or what I was talking about to get us in there, but I was looking at when the bull market began. So people are saying that it began in October. In hindsight, maybe in real time, the best that we could do was the first technical breakout, which was January. The bottom was in October. I don't, man, maybe one day we could be that good, but that's not today. Even nevertheless, they're calling it's starting in October, and they're calling the fact that basically what they're trying to say here is that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the last 12 starting in October. I don't know whether or not that carries any weight, but they're saying that the average year for a bull market out of these past 12 bull markets has been 5.5 years, right? And then what's interesting, you could see that normally the third year, which we're in right now, right? Or do we just end the third year? Started in October 23, 24. This is ending the third year now. If it started in October, I mean that's how they're analyzing it. For me, I guess January is the earliest you could call it, but whatever. They're saying normally third year on average is the weakest, and year fours tend to be strong. This third year, this weak year has been pretty good so far, right? We just saw obviously a major unknown enter into the market. The second one this year. I just want to see for the calendar year how much the market is up. So January 1st. And that is just way out. Jordan, what is going on? All right, let's find that again. So January, market's up 16% in what is historically just a pretty poor performing year. The third year averaged 3%. Here you can see that third year, this is correct. As far as 16%, this looks like it's being calculated from January 1st, but it has October in the thing. So I guess, just hold on. I want to understand. I want to be right. So if I move back to October to start this, yeah, then I'm lost. Oh, except that data might have been put out. So no, then I'm lost. But whatever. Rough strokes here. That's fine. Is there a date that this was published? I don't see a date that this was published, so I don't know what they were looking at. But what point being is that for normally third year of a bull market being rather weak, this one's been pretty strong. What's another one that was I'm looking for the ended in 2000. So that's interesting. 1987. No, that starts in 1987. That's crazy. So go back over here. I'm going to rewind. This was strong. This is the one that we talk about of being relatively similar in nature, starting here in year 8 with the back-to-back 20% plus years. Third year was strong, and then going on for 2 more years. Listen, guys, this market is being fueled here by a very real thing. It is a few companies with absolute mega earnings who are spending a lot of money as a race between US China for AI dominance is in play. And no one wants to lose this race. And a lot of people that are spending a lot of money, like not even billions, but like not even tens of billions, like 80 billion, 100 billion dollars. They're like, we're not spending enough. I wish we could spend. And the main thing here is though, and what's the most limiting thing here is the energy. And if you look at the race from a perspective of energy, China's winning on that end. I think the US is winning on the technology end, but the Chinese are winning on the energy end. They're doing everything they can to get as much energy online. Between nuclear power plants, they're up and to the right. It looks crazy. They're solar, just as much as possible. Coal, burn it. They don't care. As much energy as possible. They're put in the US. I don't know. They must have something up their sleeve. They must have, hydrogen fusion like in their back pocket, or I can't understand why they are lagging so far behind. That's a major obstacle that I see though, is where is the energy to power all of these data centers going to come from? Nevertheless, projections about the amount of data centers in the US by the year 2030 is astronomical, but they don't. Is that possible to be done? Where's the energy going to come from? These are very important questions that really need to be thought about. I'm trying to find holes in what could put a stop, a roadblock into this bubble, but I don't think personally this is a good chart to show. It doesn't really. I guess this is comparing 1999, and we were just looking at the years in the run up until it, and then you could see this mega. We were looking at the S&P 500. This is the Nasdaq, and a mega. That's bubbles tend to end in that euphoric move up. I personally don't think that we're in a bubble. I don't believe that. Now, maybe we are, maybe we aren't. Is there a lot of Fugazi stuff going on between the circle jerk with Oracle and OpenAI and who else is in that? Oracle, OpenAI, and someone else. It escapes me right now. Do I think looking back, the amount of fraud being uncovered is going? There's that mobile nuclear company inside the U.S. They start with an O. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of fraud going on, and I don't know whether that particular company is or isn't, but there's a lot of claims being made. Looking back, I think that there's going to be a lot uncovered. I just don't think that this story is close to coming to an end. Right now, I think we're a lot closer to actually having monetary policy aligned with pushing this market that is being held back by monetary policy for the last 3 years, and I think that is going to provide a strong force with the other dynamics on play. That's yeah. Whether or not look, if I were to short a company, I would have my eyes on it. But the thing is that stock price could probably go up another 1,000% in the meantime. And whether or not they're fraud or not, that remains to be seen and remains to be proven. But I think it's something to look into. That's all. Gold is holding up extraordinarily well. Let's take a look at gold, and then we'll get back to that pattern that we were just looking on the Nasdaq at the bottom. And where I can't find my gold. That's because I took it off the thing. Gold here. I mean, gold. This move was fierce. This move was fierce. And has gold come too far too soon? Gold, when it hit 3,500, had come too far too soon. I mean, it's not too soon. Obviously, it's appropriate. There are real reasons that this is occurring. And I loved looking at with you all the chart yesterday of the Nasdaq versus gold. And I think it's so important. Let me just go ahead and bring that up with you really quick. And I'm just going to jump back over here. I'm going to just pause 1 second. We'll come back to this. Let me start over here. And this is a chart showing what the S&P 500 looked like before rolling over into the great financial crisis. And there's the thought that potentially Bitcoin and NASDAQ are looking similar here. And I mean, one observation I can make is that this run up was going for 5 years. And you could see, by the way, sustainable channel, breakout to the upside, and then that big, well, this is a crash. That's not even a mean reversion. That's an absolute crash. In this one, we're seeing, I mean, this is not 5 years, but it's close to it. Don't forget, this trades Monday through Friday. This trades 24/7. So this is going on here for a few years, a couple of years, 2.5 years. And it doesn't have any breakout to the upside where this one did. This had a breakout of the channel. But are we seeing a similar rounding pattern being put in? That's put out October 9th. If you look at this, I guess I have to invert the chart for you to see what they're looking at over there. And I I guess I'm at a loss. You could be trying to pick. Here's what past bottoms look like between Bitcoin and the Nasdaq. So we have the 2018 December, and Bitcoin went on a parabolic move, right, versus the dollar, versus tech here, and it was very, very clear. And then you have the 2021, even with Nasdaq printing all highs, massive parabolic move down, puts out the high, and then compared to where we are right now, this thing is just, what do we talk about? Consolidating on support, or consolidating underneath resistance. And you could be looking, I think you could have been looking for like bottoms the whole time, right? And each one so far has got faded. It doesn't look like a bottom to me. What this is representative to me, though, is the immense strength of tech in this moment. And I say tech, and I think it's right to say tech, but we've also narrowed it down between two other things. Like, for sure, it is, and more appropriately so, it is the chip makers, right? And they can't make enough chips. They're in demand, and they need as many as could be. Look at Nvidia, the chip dealer, and there's no question about it. And like, if you were to look at this chart, it'd probably be ugly. See, I don't. Unfortunately, though, we're not going to get the semiconductors if I try to lay that over Bitcoin. So I don't know how I could do that. Let me try to click it. No, I can't get it. So anyway, I wonder what that chart would probably look. That part would be favoring, I think. Well, Nvidia. Let's try Nvidia. Hold on one second. And so, where do we go? We go from the bull market breakout in 2023, right? And Nvidia is outperforming Bitcoin, right? What about from the April low? I expect it's probably the same thing over there. Let me get this off the chart. Nvidia barely outperforming. What about from the last, not the bear market low, but the high? So we come to November 2021, and they're pretty even. That's, Nvidia, which is, I guess representative of the semiconductors, is, and Bitcoin. These are the two powerhouses, and they are neck and neck. When we talk about gold, I think it was really important yesterday to realize that even with gold going on a massive super parabolic run, it's not outperforming the Nasdaq. And there's that same point from from the highest point in 2021, and you can see gold is outperforming. I think that's actually very high signal and important, but not by a big rate. And what happens if you go from the bull market breakout, where tech was able to bottom out? They're about even right now, Bitcoin and gold. So when you look at the chart of gold, I think that why we were able to call the super cycle breakout of gold, and why we said it's not stopping at 2,500. I'll see you at 5,000. It wasn't on my radar to see such a magnificent vertical ascent. And I personally strongly believe that, like, the price targets we're going to see for gold are going to be substantially higher. What happens in between, that's a whole different story. And I don't think that we're going to continue to go vertical. But I thought that over here, I would never expect, breaking out of this consolidation, that we would go vertical as we did out of it. And I don't think many people did, personally. And here's what it is. Gold is doing tremendous, and for good reasons. And the main reason, the gold story, is neutral asset, and people want it, and gold is the leader. And I love seeing how gold's market cap is able to rise so substantially, because people like Bitcoin's market cap is tiny in comparison to gold's, right? What are the two today? Gold is over 10 times the market cap of Bitcoin. And I'm not able to go back, for example, when the price of gold was just that. Well, gold's market cap has grown by 25% since 2025, you know? And Bitcoin is tiny, 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 tiny. And if an enormous market cap the size of gold is growing so substantially, you could imagine what's in store here for Bitcoin. Because guess what? Yeah, gold is a great neutral asset, but Bitcoin's even better. And there's no question, you might want to get some in case it catches on. Um, we don't know what the ramifications of today's shots fired are going to be. We will not know that for a little while longer, and that's because we need to see what we're at the lows of the session, taking out the lows, making new lows, printing new lows over here. I mean, it seems just and appropriate that this new dynamic is being priced into the market. And is it going to get worse before it gets better? We have a pretty important date 2 weeks out. That's when the meeting's supposed to take place. If that meeting doesn't happen, there's a good chance that markets could be under some pretty strong pressure. Silver, I think silver is going to make the breakout here. Silver even still is above 50 today, just below 50. A massive breakout. That's looking at the monthly chart. I think that's appropriate. I just want to check out the weekly chart. This looks like it's going to be the highest weekly close in the history of silver. The highest weekly close, previous highest weekly close was coming in over here at 47.9. So maybe not. Silver is very volatile. We don't know by the end of the session what it looks like. I think silver is an extremely similar pattern to where gold was in 2023. I think silver is going to wind up breaking out, and I think that I think the move to 70 could be pretty quick. That's what I see. Now, if we were to see, I think it's important to see on this day of red, bonds are bid, right? So U.S. is talking about increasing its tariffs on the Chinese, and the markets are pricing in deflation. They're not pricing in inflation. Man, never believe a central banker. Never believe a central banker, And yeah. So I think that we have a long-term trend in precious metals here. I favor gold until the US floods the system again. I do favor gold, but if silver's I was thinking over here when silver was around low 30s, that prior to the US printing, the move up to 50 has been a lot. Like the acceleration is a lot quicker than I anticipated. A lot quicker. Much like gold's move up has also been a lot quicker. Listen, I think these are real dynamics in play. I don't think this is speculation. I think that what we're seeing is obviously central banks moving towards and continuing to accumulate gold, and I think that has ramifications for other instruments within that asset class. And I think silver is riding on that tail. I would expect that, in much the same way I favor or prefer Bitcoin over Ethereum. It's the same way with gold over silver. However, silver on the breakout above 50 here, it could see rapid price acceleration. I do believe it, and I would believe that there could be a lot of people who have been accumulating gold and silver for a long time, selling gold at these levels in order to kind of speculate in the silver market. And it's a much smaller market. It's the size of Bitcoin, $2.5 trillion. Went up to 10%. Well, what's the degree? How much are they talking? Are the markets beginning already? Are the markets in freak out mode, and are they beginning to price in more? No. Let's hear it. Drop it on us. You guys saw the news here that we have a lot of Ripple's partners are saying that they are collaborating together to launch their own stable coin. I wonder what that means for XRP, you know? Markets at the lows of the session, drilling down. Is he looking tough? Markets are bleeding. I think it's justified. I don't think this is an overreaction. I think that this could be changed if we were to see a massive about face, a taco. We call it taco, right? Because Trump always chickens out. But maybe it comes from Z. I don't know. But unless these two are meeting in 2 weeks and the outcome is favorable, likely that I think the markets are pricing in accordingly here. Robert, going into the weekend, definitely markets under pressure here. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the uranium, I mean, it makes sense, Jeff, and it makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are getting interested in I think platinum is speculation, personally. Uranium, there is a real reason for it. 7% is barely a blip. Barely a blip. Taking out the lows over here into even this would be just well within reason. So listen, I think it's super healthy. I like it. I think it's good. The other way, I don't think it was good. So we'll you know, the Bears have been in the background, and the Bulls have been extraordinarily strong. Today's price action is not just a fluctuation; it's a real new dynamic being priced into the market that was priced out. That was the assumption that the trade war between the U.S. and China was going to escalate. It was moving the other way, and it was moving towards dialogue, and it was moving towards some type of mutual resolution. Right now, ahead of that meeting, like we're seeing some posturing going on, whether or not it's just the silverback beating his chest, or whether or not things are about to get ugly, we're going to find out. Everyone, yeah, CTM, lots of love, everyone. God bless you all. Have a great weekend, and we are back at it on Monday.